I'm Tom Laux, Communications Director, City of Marshfield. Thank you for joining me. Today we have Pete Hendler. He's here to talk about the candidate preview that I have coming up, and you get to learn more about him. So thank you for joining me, Pete.
Well, thank you, Tom, for having me.
All righty. Well, you're in District 10. You've been doing this for quite some time. Let's get to know you a little bit better for those that may not know you.
Well, I'm the alderman person from District 10, and I've served in that capacity over 13 years, and I enjoy working with people. I've worked with people all my life, in my private life as well as my public life.
All righty. Well, earlier we said District 10. Can you give me an idea where District 10 is here in the city of Marshfield?
Certainly. District 10 is one of the larger areas, I think, out of the 10 districts. And the district, if you look at it from East McMillan to Galvin to Becker, a part of North Palmetto, Grant, and then Peach, and it extends over 97 into the V&H area.
Well, that's a nice area to live in, and you can get a chance to get up to the north end of town.
Yes, I think it's a very nice place to live in. We've lived there for 53 years. And in fact, when I came out of the service, we adopted Marshfield, and my wife is a native. And we love the churches, we love the schools, we love the hospitals. I mean, it's an ideal location for the city of Marshfield to raise your children.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's talk about local government. You've been doing this now for quite some time. Tell me what intrigues you. Why do you do this?
Well, like I said, I've worked with the public and with the university and the academic staff and students for over 32 years. And it's a challenging, and as far as I'm concerned, it's really an area that keeps you alert mentally, and it deals with a lot of issues. And the issues are sometimes complicated, sometimes easy, but nothing nowadays under the COVID-19 area is easy to deal with, a lot of restrictions. But I love it.
Well, you've been doing it, like I said, for quite some time. It's this year has been one of the most difficult times on the council, I'm assuming, this year.
Yes, it has been. Officer Bull Camp, the mayor issue, the utility, the Fire and Police Commission, police chief. It's been very challenging, and I think we'll come through it. It's difficult, and I know the public would like to see this happen too, that a closure to some of these issues, because it's not good for the city of Marshfield's image in the Wisconsin area.
Well, we're taping this on the 9th of March, already getting to the middle of March. I can't believe it. Our election, spring election, is coming up here in April, and you're on the ballot, Peter. District 10, if you're out at the polls here, first Tuesday in April, then you know what to look for when you're in District 10. Because if you're in District 8, you won't be voting for Peter here, but you will be voting if you're in District 10. So he gave you an idea where that is, and let's get to know him a little bit more. We got quite a few questions here to go through. And again, thank you for joining us here on this program. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, let's talk about some of the local issues. Anything that you want to talk about that you're most passionate about over the time that you've been doing this, and maybe what you want to do the next 2 years?
Well, I would like to, as I said before, I'd like to see closure on some of these issues that have been confronting us for some time now. And the council and the city has spent an awful lot of time with this at a very expensive legal cost. And I'd like to see closure to this. Now, closure, I mean, sometimes it isn't satisfactory to people who are helping to pay the bill, but given the laws as they exist, we have to work within the confines of those laws and at the advice of legal counsel.
Yeah, it's not an easy part to be an alderman at all, but you've been up for the challenge and have done it many years and enjoy it a lot. Let's talk about committees. It's not just the council that you're on. You have a lot of committees that you have to do as well. Is there any of them that you would like to serve on again if elected here this year?
Definitely. I've been on a finance, budget, and personnel committee for a large number of years. I've served as a chairman. But one of my favorite commissions is the Community Development Authority, working with the seniors residents in that area, and I love it. I love helping those who need help, and because I'm not too far away from it myself needing help. So it's a wonderful feeling and an experience I think that everybody should try to have.
Most definitely. It's a rewarding experience to work with those people. I find it very beneficial. My parents are almost in their 80s, and my grandmother is 103 coming up.
Oh, wonderful.
So I spent a lot of time growing up with my grandmother and hanging around those people, as well as in public access. We have a lot of viewers out here that watch us, and it's very important that we bring this information to them.
I agree.
Yep.
I agree.
So let's talk about time commitment. Well, you're retired.
Yes,
that
I
helps. Do you have the time to continue doing this?
Yes, I do. At the advice of my physician, not only when you get to a certain age, you need to be physically active and also mentally. And knowing my dad, for example, he retired and he just mentally fell apart, and I have no desire to do that. And by doing this, it drives me every day to look at the issues, deal with them, talk to people about it, and I love it.
Yeah, definitely. It keeps you going, and it's like a car. If you stop that car and you don't drive it for 2 years, you know what happens.
Bingo.
It falls apart. So it's glad that you're able to do all the same things, and you're saying, bring it on. You can come here to those meetings, and all right, well, that's good to know. Let's talk about our downtown. I think we have a great downtown, one of the best downtowns in central Wisconsin. It looks like a real downtown. When you go through it, it reminds me of back in the days of what downtowns used to be when probably 70s and 80s when I grew up. But let's talk about, is it successful? Where do you want to see it go, or are you happy with it?
Well, we do need to consider the downtown as a vital part of this community. There's no doubt about it. The many shops have closed, some have opened, but the COVID-19 experience has been very detrimental to many of the businesses, the unemployment. It's hopefully it'll come to an end, and then we can revitalize the area. I know the development director has tried many different aspects of it, and I hope that he will continue to do that, because downtown is important to us. Whether you like it or not, it is important. It's vital to the people that come into the community to do their shopping, and I would encourage in any way possible.
A lot of small shops, really neat to go down to and see. You don't see that all the time in a lot of towns, and a way to go shopping. People can come here and visit. And if they want to go down to the north end where your district is, there's the restaurants and stuff like that. So, and there's restaurants in downtown. Look at Mojo's. That's one of the newer restaurants down there in the last couple of years, and
yes,
it just expanded. So, well, we'll see how that goes over the next 2 years in the downtown. I'm hoping COVID goes away, so those businesses can flourish and grow.
You're absolutely right.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement, and it will improve.
Oh, I think it will. I think we're already seeing that with the COVID, and seeing more, some things going on down there, a little bit more people.
I think people are very resilient, and they're ready to go back to work and do it right.
Yep.
And I think it will happen.
Definitely. Let's talk about government waste. A lot of people refer to that. I don't know if that's a great term to say, but you've gone through how many budgets now? Quite a few. Being an alderman, you have to, just give your your yes or no vote to a lot of this stuff. Do you see any waste or anything we could do differently in our government?
Well, it depends upon how you define waste, okay? To me, waste is not a very descriptive word. I think it's not fair to use that word with government in all occasions. Many of the things that we support, for example, the utility, I know I disagreed with the price tag on that of about $17 million. But there was a commission and the vote was taken 5-5. The mayor broke the tie in favor of that. It's going to translate into an increase in rates, electric rates, and everything's going up. You've got the taxes going up. We had a situation where we had some very progressive accounting, and we're paying the financial price for that. And I might say the finance directors do an admirable job under some very difficult conditions. So I am hopeful, and you have to remain hopeful and not consider it waste. You have to become smart at what you do. And I think staff is beginning to turn the corner to work with the council in forums from a finance position to inform the council to make good decisions when needed to be.
That's a good point with the calling it government waste. Maybe not a really good terminology, and it's too vague is what it is. So thank you for clearing that up. I appreciate that, Peter. Let's talk a little bit about, again, we were talking about downtown and commercial spaces down there. Is there anything the city should be doing beyond the downtown, more expansions in the city?
Well, the industrial districts are getting a lot of attention now because this is where our future is. And I think, if I may say, Mr. Miller's doing an admirable job in that, sometimes under very difficult conditions, but he is still pushing the envelope to make sure that these TID districts are being utilized and utilized well. Because every time you have a success in that area, it means an additional revenue for the city of Marshfield.
Yeah, those are very important part of our area, and we have a few different business districts around here. Prevention genetics is a big one over there, a really important area.
Precisely.
Yep. So, well, I hope that more will happen in the next 2 years. You get elected again, you get to see some more progress. So we'll see where it goes.
Well, I hope so because, this is an exciting time. For example, we've got the Aquatic Center, a very good addition to the city of Marshfield, which I'm sure is going to draw a lot of people. So, the Aquatic Center being next to Wildwood Park, I mean, my gosh, it's a wonderful location to visit.
Oh, definitely. My kids are excited to open here, hopefully in July is what I'm hearing. That's what I've been hearing. Yeah. I think the construction's been going well this year. Good weather. And now look at today's weather, almost 60 degrees out there.
Well, let's not get too overexcited with the good weather.
Yeah, you never know. That one year, I think, 2018 or 2019, we had, 24 inches of snow. So yeah, I'll knock on this table. It happens. We live in Wisconsin. Transportation right now, we have a cab company out of Iroquois, I believe. How's that working for people?
I've heard different stories about the transportation. I would prefer to have a cab service system. But I don't think we're big enough to accommodate that yet at this point, so we're going to have to rely on the mass transit, as you call it. And some people have a good experience with it, some of it don't. So, it's personal taste that's involved, and that's very hard to get your hands on.
It is, and, a bus service like Point we're probably too small for that.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. But, a lot of cities do have different transportations, options, but it's working right now, I guess you're saying, and you're always open to new ideas.
Well, certainly, you have to start out what is most accommodating to the community and progress into something more flexible.
Okay. Let's talk about getting people involved in local government. It's not an easy process. You guys have been putting hours upon hours in, and you're not making a lot of money. You get a little bit of money for being an alderman, but these committees and commissions, a lot of them they don't get any money for doing it. So how do you entice people to do this?
Well, one of the things we're having at this time, it's very hard. Well, the mayor has the problem to find people to volunteer for committees, and commissions. It's very hard to do it. Sometimes people want to avoid controversy. Sometimes people want to avoid anything that adversely, would make them unhappy with what they're doing. And I think we have a vacuum there. And the vacuum is we need citizens to step forward and take their part in local government. For example, you can start by coming to commission meetings. You can come to council meetings and committees. And I see very little of that happening. I wish people would take part in it because they are the people that are paying the taxes to have government take place. And you've got to take part in order to understand government. Much of it, there's a lot of discussion about what's really happening that isn't happening. And I think they ought to listen, they ought to take part in those council meetings. That's my feeling on it.
Yeah, it's definitely important.
There's room for it, but it takes a person to come forward to do this.
Earlier on, you said you've been doing this how many years now, Peter?
13 years.
13 years. Did you see more people in it when you started, or is it about the same?
No, there was more interest in it when I first started than there is now. Right now, of course, we've got COVID-19 and all of the other things that go along with it, but I think there's a reluctancy on part of people taking part in government because they have sort of a bad feeling about government. On a local level, on a national level, I mean, you've got it all over, but you've got to take part. This is one of our rights to do that. In order to do this adequately, you have to take part, you have to take the initiative, you have to take the unhappiness about it, but it's there, and we need people to take part. It's as simple as it is. Without it, we can't work.
Yeah, it's really important. Back in the days of high school, civics class, they called it, was really important. Maybe they need to bring more of that back in the schools, more government, and get that started with the younger people.
Well, right now we're going through some very difficult times nationally, statewide, and so on. But you can't turn your back on it. You'll have to look forward, take part in discussions. It's your right to do that. And only through discussions do we will have good compromises to make our life more pleasant.
Yeah, definitely. And we're a council that allows public comment. Do you like that part when they come in and let us know what's going on?
I wish more people would do that because by public comments, they are communicating to the council. Sometimes you don't like it, sometimes you do. However, it's a form of communication that we need to know how the public feels. And by knowing that, we get a different part of the perspective that's going on. And then we're in a position to make a better decision.
Exactly. I agree with you, Peter. We're sitting here with Peter Hendler, District 10. He's running again for the spring election. That is a 2-year term. And you're on the even side this year. It's always even every 2 years, then odd. I think that's how that works here in the city of Marshfield.
I think it's a good way. This way you always have a little carryover from the previous if there's changes, which is good.
Yep, definitely. All right, well, we have a few more questions. Let's talk about, we talked about finances a little bit, but is there anything that you would want to do to keep the city financially stable?
Well, at the present time, I think we're going through some very difficult financial situations, which I am not happy about, but somehow we've inherited. And I think what we have now is we have a finance director that communicates periodically with us to let us know where we stand financially, and we can make better decisions. I think prior to that we were somewhat sheltered from some of the difficult decisions by not having the information. And now we do, and I am very happy about it. And I know it's not pleasant to hear negative numbers, but in this case, we're working with those negative numbers, and I think the finance director is doing a marvelous job in trying to get us back on a higher rating from Moody's.
That's really important. We want to we borrow money. We're always going to have to borrow money on bigger projects. There's just nothing about it.
I don't want to borrow any more money.
No, nobody does. But if we have to, we definitely want to get a good rate by saying the Moody's is giving us a good rate.
Well, it's not as good as it should be. We dropped considerably after the last 2 years.
Well, let's hope that will change as we move in to 2022. That's not any more 9 months away, you believe it? It's just going to be here before you know it, and Christmas will be here. We haven't even had summer. I should not be thinking about snow again.
I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
I know. Let's talk about the pandemic. We hear it somewhat winding down, then it winds up, winds down, but anything that you think the city could do differently or is doing well about our pandemic?
Well, I think the mayor did a good job by alerting us to some of the situations that are going on. I know it's sometimes, all the way up from the CDC, all the way down to the state level, the governor said, we're trying all to do our best, and it appears that we different versions people hear and do. But what's really interesting now is that people are getting their COVID shots at a much rapid rate than we did before, and I think by that I think as this morning about 1 million people in the state received their COVID shots, and I know I'm getting my second one. So, but it means that we're not out of the woods yet. I think we still, from my personal experience, we should, sanitize our hands. We should wear a mask. And by the way, I don't think we're 5 feet apart at this point.
Well, we do clean this place. We're being very careful. You and I do wear our masks right after this program, so he's even got it right there in his hand. So it's a Badgers one.
Oh
You're
yeah,
a Badgers fan.
Wisconsin is rather dear to my heart. I worked for the university for about 32 years.
Nice.
And I was granted emeritus status, non-academic emeritus status. So I'm quite proud of the institution and what it does.
You bet. All right, let's talk about stuff that's laying around people's property, junk cars. It's been up at the council a few different times. I'm sure you heard it before I was even here. Anything that you would want to do differently, or how do we've heard the issues. Actually, we were going to hear something tonight again, I think, and this is the night.
Well, I think we should. I think there are spots in the city that really desperately need some attention, and my feeling is that we're not approaching this aggressively. This is because of the rules in place, but many of these places that are deteriorating are run and operated by non-residents. And I don't think it's good. I don't think it just needs to be cleaned up. I mean, I don't, it is, some of the houses I have seen are very difficult to describe. And not only the house is bad, but, they have cars parked there that shouldn't be parked, maybe 2 or 3 of them at a time. I mean, you've got all kinds of issues, and I think that we're working on it, but it's a slow process, and you have to remain, patient and let the people that follow the rules do their job. And I think this evening, if that comes up again, I'm going to say to them point blank, look, we've got a situation, we've had it a long time, it's time not to ignore it. Time to do something. Now, how are you going to approach it? That's your job. I don't know the rules, but you should.
Yeah, they need to enforce it and make sure it's done right. People come into the town, you want them to live here. They want to see a nice area. It's important, so I totally understand. A few more questions left here. Relationship between staff and elected officials. Any ideas on how you can maybe foster relationships, good or different ways?
Well, there is a communication problem to some degree. But I look at staff as people that follow the rules that exist. And I think the people outside of that, like myself, do not understand all the rules. So I look upon them to educate us and to listen to us to make some of the rules that they have apply and enforce them. And the other thing with COVID right now, I think I mentioned this before, you know, you go want to talk to a director, they come out and meet you, and you walk into the, well, that's, you know, that's fine at this point, but sooner or later, I like to be able to walk into the institution and say, hi, how are you? Can you help me with this? It'll come back. So I'm very hopeful that the relationships improve.
All right. Well, let's hope COVID, you know, we can put that to bed and it never comes back in our lifetime or at all. I don't want to see it at all, really. No one's lifetime, but, and then, because it's important to be able to have a conversation with your alderman or anyone really at City Hall and feel welcome. We want everyone to feel welcome. That's really their building. They paid for it.
Oh yes, many times over, thank you.
Yep, so we got to appreciate all our citizens that live here. 'Cause otherwise, I probably wouldn't be looking at you. I wouldn't be working here. I don't have them.
That's true, Tom.
Yep, it's true. Any ideas that you want to do in your district or any issues in 10 that you wanted to bring up? Pretty quiet, good?
Well, one of the issues that I'd like to know more about, and one of my hopes is if elected in the next year, is to look at the relationships we have with trailer courts. Okay. Of course, trailer courts ownerships do change periodically, and one of the trailer courts in my area has. Absentee ownership is a very difficult thing to overcome. And I had an individual call me about snow removal, and of course I got together with, I believe, the city garage director and Dan Connect, the So I think it was an excellent idea for the city street department individual to answer this person's question as to how far the city plows can enter a trailer court. And the lady wasn't totally convinced, but she understood what the rule was. And she also told me that she was going to get together with the owner representative to try to take care of some of these issues. I mean, you know, there are little things that happen all the time, and they need to be addressed.
Yeah, definitely. And that's where you come in. People can get a hold of you and ask you those questions, and you can search for answers for those, or they can call department heads as well. But, you know, you're their contact, and you don't mind people getting in touch with you?
No. But I think the people have to understand that there are rules that are beyond, you know, council members. And sometimes they don't like them, sometimes they do. But that's as far as I can go. You know, I didn't make the rules that are in place. I try to follow them myself. But, you know, it all, in the end, it all works out. And I do give people the guidance to go to certain people to discuss their issue with them. And I got to say that the people on the other end do also like to hear that, because they're here to serve the city and its citizens, because they're paying the bill, so to speak. So you know, so it works out eventually.
Yep, definitely. Well, we're to our last question, and
are you sure?
Yeah, it's number 17. We can keep it going though. But.
Oh yeah, you do. Okay, what do you got?
This one's really for the communications department. Again, it's just a little over 2 years old, and you know, the public access is not even 2 years. We took that over in like April, May of 2019. Any ideas that help us out better communicate to you guys, to the people out there? Any other suggestions?
Well, I think I'm happy that we have a communication department. I'm happy that we have you. I know it was difficult getting that through initially, but now that we have it, you're growing as the community grows. The needs change, you change. And I think you have to be patient to have all of this occur. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. And but I think you and your department will be successful. And if you need help, you have to ask us. You know, if you can't get it from staff and it has a budget implication, you've got to tell the council and say, look, if I'm going to be doing this, which you want, I'm going to need this to support that. We need to have you communicate with us.
I think that's really good point, and thank you for telling us that. I think that we need to hear that more often. I think all department heads need to hear that more often. They need to communicate to their aldermen as much as possible.
That's right. You're absolutely correct.
And without there's a lack of communication, and then you know why things aren't happening. So thank you for that. I will keep that to the top of my list, and David as well, our producer, when we're thinking about what we need to do to help communicate to you, the public, staff. That's what it's all about. We need to make sure that definitely our public is well aware of what's going on with city government, and make sure that they are well versed.
Well, thank you for having me, Tom,
Yeah.
and I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you coming by. I got a chance to get to know you a little bit better, Peter. I've never had you here, and it's nice to hear about what you've been doing with the council. And well, you have another chance here. You'll be on the ballot coming up here in April, first Tuesday of the month. That's not far from now.
No, April 6th is the date,
That's right.
and I would appreciate my district giving me the support in order to serve them.
Alrighty. All right, well, remember that date, April 6th, as Peter had said. You want to get out to the polls, District 10, that you can vote for Peter here in that, if you're in that district. And I appreciate you watching us on our program. And we'll be back with another candidate preview as well throughout the process. We have done 3 of them on top of Peter here. So hopefully that'll help everyone get to know their aldermen or who they're going to vote for coming here in the spring election of 2021. Thanks for joining me. I'm Communications Director Tom Laux. Thanks. Thank you.